there's just too, I think we're in too deep now. Like, I genuinely think we have gotten past a point where we can do something like this in this kind of game. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another discussion video. My name is Q, or Quetz for long. How are you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a great day / night. I know back to school is here among us, so hopefully any students out there listening to this, get through your classes. But I want to talk about today a discussion topic that Scott Jund has recently posted in a 4-minute video. If you don't know who Scott Jund is, he, I would say, is a prominent creator in the Dead by Daylight space / community. He is kind of basically known for these discussion videos about the game, its mechanics, its characters, its perks, chapters, all that stuff. Basically, he's known for basically creating discussions, and this one really caught my eye. So today I kind of want to talk about it. So if you haven't seen the original video, it's only 4 minutes long. It's titled "Can Survivors Be More Than Skins?" or something like that. And the basically premise of this video is he takes this idea from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I personally haven't played. I've seen gameplay of it, but honestly the game doesn't really interest me like that, so I'm not too sure what he means by his passive abilities. That's what he kind of calls them. I'm assuming passives kind of work in that game how they work in Apex Legends. That's going to be my point of reference, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Hopefully someone can correct me in the comments. But basically, from my understanding and the context from the video, passives are basically these little boosts or abilities that you gain, but that's only locked behind that specific character. So for example, in Apex, the main person that I play is Bangalore. Her passive ability is that she doubles her movement speed for like 2 or 3 seconds, I would say, when she's getting shot at, and then that has a cooldown, and then it can reoccur. So it's basically an ability you don't have to use, you don't have to activate it, you don't press a button really. It's kind of just something that goes on through the game, and it occurs naturally throughout the game. So that's basically what passes are if you don't have a point of reference. Now, what does that mean for survivors, and where do I kind of really stand in this topic? So when I first saw the video, I was kind of like, you know what, that sounds dope. We kind of need something like that for survivors, because I do generally believe that survivors also should get their own, not necessarily power, but they should get something a bit extra, because at the end of the day, survivor is just the same model with different skins. That's basically what it is. There's not really a skill level to survivor, because you're playing basically the same character. Everyone's playing the same character with just different skins on. Now you get spice it up with different perks. I might be using a completely different build than you are. You might be using blast mine and wiretap and all these, that interacts with the gens, and you can block the gen with repressed alliance, and that's kind of your build. It's a gen centric build. Mine will probably be like maybe a healing build. We'll make it, we're gonna live forever, bonding knowledge, and what's another good one? I don't know, maybe adrenaline, just because I want to get out there and I'm selfish at the end of the day. I don't know. My point is that again, with killers, their mechanics are very intricate, in sense that every individual character for a killer has an individual power that you need to kind of understand in a game sense, whereas survivor, to repair gens, GG, easy, get out the gate, teabag at the end. Okay, so what can we do then to make survivor more interesting? And Scott's point was that, well, okay, let's add these kind of passive abilities for each unique survivor, and have each survivor have a unique passive. I kind of just said the same thing twice. So here's the thing, right? And this is kind of where I stand with it. Like, again, on one hand, I love the idea. I think it's a great idea. Realistically, will this ever happen? Probably not. Probably not, knowing behavior. If behavior did see the video or wanted to implement something like this to give some more intricacies to survivor, it would be in a patch note where we don't get content, basically. Like, that will be the content, kind of like that quality of life patch where they didn't really drop anything, but they just reworked a bunch of perks and fixed a bunch of bugs. We kind of basically would need another patch like that. There's no way they're gonna like add passives and then also give us a killer, survivor, and a map at the same time, or even just a brand new killer with a unique power and survivor, both of which have their own unique perks. And two, and I think what is kind of making this a bit more challenging, at least this idea turning it from like practice into reality, or like a dream into reality, is the fact that there's just too, I think we're in too deep now. Like, I genuinely think we have gotten past a point where we can do something like this in this kind of game, because after counting, there are 36 total survivors and 32 killers. Now, what's going to make this really difficult is this idea of you already have 36 survivors, 40, with the next two chapters, if they do 2 and 2, and then maybe one, like we just get one, like Nick Cage. Let's just say we get 40 at the end of the year, right? So that's 40 passives. That's 36 that the devs need to come up with already existing survivors, and then 4 extra brand new ones, none of which should repeat themselves or be too similar, because then we're going to start running into this problem of like, well, the first question I had was, if we implement the passives, does that mean I am locked out of a character to prohibit, like, do passives stack? And if they don't, okay, then I guess that doesn't mean I'm locked out of a character, so like we can still have a lobby full of Megs. But if the passives do stack, and Meg's passive is, maybe it doesn't affect her, but she recovers from exhaustion 2% faster. So if it stacks, you have a full team, that's we're all recovering from exhaustion at 10%, right? So then if it doesn't stack, I guess that's fine, as long as the ability is severely balanced, not severely balanced, if the ability is remotely balanced. But if it's too underpowered, then what's the point of even adding the ability to begin with? And Scott mentioned this literally in the first minute of the video. So I think this idea is very, very tricky, because you want to create something, it's kind of like the haste effect and when you play Survivor, or Killer for that matter, just a haste effect in general, where you don't want to tune the number too high, because then you have a killer or survivor that you literally either can't reach or you can't escape from. But then you don't want to do it too low, where you have kind of like a boon of dark theory and it doesn't really do anything, unless it's stacked with other perks. So that's the first problem. Again, does these passive now mean that you are locked out of playing a certain survivor because of stacking? Or what's the plan of balancing where they are not overpowered or underpowered? And then now my third question is, how do you create passives that don't repeat themselves within 36 survivors alone? Because we're already seeing this issue with perks, right? There's a billion aura reading perks for survivor alone. Also for killer, there's perks that let you recover faster. We already have multiple perks that you can press the active ability once you worked on a gen for long enough. So at this point, I feel like the creativity space, it kind of just stops after maybe the 20th survivor. And again, he mentions this himself, for some it's going to be really hard. For Cheryl, for example, I think that was the example. Mine would be the twins, Renato and Thalita. What would their passes be? Or Jill Valentine, for some of these, how would you incorporate an ability that is not used by any other character and is not similar to any other character, and is also not severely overpowered but also not underpowered to the point where it's why did we spend resources and time to make this basically and put it in the game if no one's going to use it? And also, again, like I said, we already have this problem with perks, where there's a lot of perks that kind of just are copies of other perks, or they're Frankensteined into doing one perk's ability, another perk's ability, and then put it together, and that's a new perk. We're already starting to see that issue now. So I'm that's just kind of my main concern with this. After reading some of the comments, a reoccurring idea that the comments said on this video was, or not this video, sorry, on Scott's video, was this idea of classes. And that's really interesting, because that's kind of a route I feel like a lot of online games kind of take now. Even Apex, the game that I mainly play aside from DVD, for example, they now have put their characters into classes as well. And it's kind of support, artillery, not healer. There's like a healer one, but it's not support. I forgot what it's called though. There's recon. There's basically, yeah, like the legends, their characters are separated into classes, and I'm thinking the classes system might not be a bad idea, but at the same time, what kind of stops you from, like, again, like, can you have, I guess my point is, like, can you have multiple characters of the same class in the game, and then after a while, if, because there's the one part I do disagree with in the video is, like Scott mentioned, like, people aren't really gonna care that much, and they're gonna just not, take it too seriously. And I kind of just laughed because I was like, this is Dead by Daylight we're talking about. Like, people are going to find the optimal strat. But like, people were finding the optimal strat for plot twists like the day it was even announced. Like, people were already coming up with crazy builds that plot twists can synergize with other perks. So if passives were introduced, people would definitely find a way to optimize the best passive. Like, what can this be used for? Also, can passive stack with perks? That's a question I just thought of right now. But I was getting sidetracked. But yeah, the class system, I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really cool idea. But again, I just kind of run into this situation where it's like, can we play the same character? Like, let's say Jake, David, Dwight, and I don't know, Ace are all in the same, support class or whatever. Can I, with my friends, play this? Like, can my friends and I play all these 4 characters in the same class, or will I be forced to choose someone else, like one support, one healer, one looper, or I don't know, like something like that? Y'all know what I mean? And that, I feel like if that's the case, then too, the queue times will be so much longer, I feel like, for solo queue, because say let's say I play by myself, right, and I pick Meg, and she's in like the, I guess, survivalist class where, I recover from exhaustion faster and I do all this just like maybe 3% faster, right? If my lobbies now, if my MMR is at a certain spot and the lobbies have now optimized it where, it's best to run Meg, then my queue times are going to be so much longer. I love the idea, and I wish we can have this ability for survivors, but I don't know, just the pessimist in me like believes one behavior would never implement this, because that would probably just take way too much time. And after a certain point, probably after maybe the 15th survivor, it's like, all right, what the hell do we give these people? Like, what abilities can we give these people that are not too overpowered or not too underpowered? It's I think it's a very interesting, fine balancing act that the devs would need to do. And there's just, again, so many details, like, how does this impact queue time? Does this lock you out from certain characters? Does this not lock you out? Do they stack? Do they not stack? Like, so many questions, so many more questions that I have, and I'm really curious to see what your guys' ideas are in the comments down below if you want to continue the conversation. I do want to read one comment that I actually like. Okay, so this person wrote, Beast Bro wrote, honestly, you're kind of going with an idea I have. Think a more balanced way would be to just have it to when you are playing, say Meg for example, then one or all her teachables have a bonus effect. And I think that would actually be really cool if you take it, maybe like take it a step further. Say, well, I was gonna say maybe if you only do that character, if you're only using that character's perks, that if you have all 3 of them equipped and only those 3, then their effects are amplified slightly. And I think that would be really cool and encouraging more adept gameplay. But then again, you kind of don't want to like take the fun away from people from like running the builds that they want. So maybe, again, but then you only get 4 perks. So if you're using all 3 of their perks and then have an extra perk, does it really make that much of a difference? I'm not too sure. But my point is that how do you make this more fun too? I do love that idea though too, of like, if you're using that person's perk and you're playing as that person, do they get a special bonus for using that perk or all 3 perks? I think that's a really interesting idea. And yeah, I really want this conversation to continue, because I feel like this isn't really talked about enough in terms of like survivor gameplay. But yeah, I feel like this isn't really talked about much for survivor gameplay, because at the end of the day, survivor gameplay is mainly just looping and doing gens. It's very, very simple. And if you add a new mechanic like this, I think this is where this video stems from too, really, is this idea of behavior needing, or like lack of innovation in the game like this, where you kind of need to add new mechanics. And I feel like it has been more interactive between the killers as the chapters have been released more and more. Singularity, you interact with the cameras, you have to get an EMP. With the newest killer, the xenomorph that's going to be releasing soon, you get a flamethrower turret. Like Survivor, we're seeing a lot more interactivity between the survivors and the killers, and I think that should be encouraged more, but not to an annoying point like pigs, bear traps, where it's like, damn, I have to base my chances of living off of luck and go through all these different, like, I can understand how that could be annoying. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think about or thought about this topic in the comments down below. Again, if you enjoy these discussion videos, let me know by leaving a like on a video. I'll be more than happy to keep doing them. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Take care now.